Can you imagine what that must be like to be doing what he does for a living right now with what's going on? Arthur Delaney with the Huffington Post joining us right now. Arthur, I really do appreciate you being here. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, hi, Arthur. Appreciate you being here. I've been wanting to get you on the show for a while now. I have to ask you, when you're asking that question and you see the answer or the lack thereof from Mike Johnson, what is going through your mind?
Well, he was ready for that question because he did not hesitate to say that he backed EMTALA, the Emergency Medical Treatment and Stabilization Act from 1986, because they've been saying about illegal immigrants supposedly getting free Medicaid, free health care, has sort of implied that you oppose them getting it in this specific manner, and they in their gripes about what Democrats want in the shutdown, they've complained about them wanting to repeal part of a law that they passed that actually addressed funding for states regarding hospital care. So I think he knew the question was coming, and so he focused on this law being good. And I also put this question to the Senate Majority Leader in the hallway, and he didn't hesitate either to say they backed that law, which I was glad to get the opportunity to ask, because I thought their rhetoric made it an open question. What are you getting at here? And so no, they don't want to go there, even though the White House didn't feel ready to answer that question. J.D. Vance has said immigrants are crowding emergency rooms. Well, if you don't want that, there's only one way you're going to prevent it, which is to let people bleed out in parking lots.
Exactly. And I'm glad you asked that question. It's a question that it seems like a lot of Republicans have to answer, but they seem to have a half-hearted answer at that question. What did you make, by the way, Arthur, of the Hakeem Jeffries-Lawler spat that they had for all to see? What did you make of that?
So here at the Capitol, where I am right now, the Mike Johnson is here, and he's one of the only Republicans, and lots of Democrats are here, and Hakeem Jeffries and Mike Johnson are doing press events every day. And so yesterday, before this fight happened, some Senate Democrats had actually come over and staged a little press conference outside Johnson's office, and Johnson came out and basically beefed with them, and these fellas were all pointing their fingers at each other and saying, no, you don't want to open the government. Yeah, well, you're protecting pedophiles. And Mike Lawler actually happened to be standing there. We do have a few Republican stragglers who've been around, and Mike Lawler was there yesterday, and he jumped into that fray. And I walked with him afterward. I was like, well, you seemed like you had a good time there. He's like, yeah, I'm around. I thought I might as well get involved. And he basically walked straight from the rumble in the rotunda over to where Jeffries was then having a press conference in the visitor center. And it was just like, I'm fired up. I'm going to fight Jeffries now. And it was a very similar interaction. And Jeffries was very ready to beef himself. I mean, he's been beefing with Republicans, but not face to face. So that was new and different. And it wasn't that obvious to me either of them got the better of the other, though I'd be interested in hearing what you guys thought, like who came out on top there.
Honestly, I thought it was pathetic on both sides. And I'm going to do an entire segment. And to be honest with you, Arthur, I'm sad to see that stuff. First of all, I think Lawler was a complete clown for wanting to make it like some sort of show. And I also think that the way that Hakeem Jeffries handled it wasn't the best either. Do that behind closed doors. If you want to have a conversation, Representative Lawler, let's do it privately instead of yelling and screaming. I thought they both made mistakes there. And I just think it's a sad moment for the country. And I guess that comes to my next question. If you're just joining us, by the way, Arthur Delaney, a great journalist and reporter for the Huffington Post. What is it like being a reporter with the Manu Rajus of the world and others, chasing down these politicians at a time now where I think it's so contentious and it's got to be difficult for you guys. It's like a clown show out there. What is it like for you being a reporter talking to these politicians? It's such a crazy time that we are living in right now.
It's a great privilege to be a reporter at the Capitol because you have full access. You can go just about anywhere. And that means, and your job, my job, is to walk up to these folks and accost them. And it's a lot of fun. Occasionally, people do get nasty, and say mean things to reporters, but that's fine. That's part of the job. And yesterday when they were fighting each other, which is very unusual, that was weird. And the main reason they were doing that is because we were all watching. And so they were trying to get rhetorical punches, but it wasn't, a real fight. They weren't actually going to start fighting each other. And I think it was corny, basically. And I agree. That's how it looks. And I think we've reached the limit of politicians like cussing and trying to seem cool, which has been a real phenomenon this year. I mean, if you're cussing and stuff, like, well, you guys are gonna have to start punching each other because it's an escalation. But it clearly isn't. It doesn't work. It's not going anywhere. And today, Jeffries was just asked about it on the steps, and he's, the reporter said, so Mike Lawler came up to you, and Jeffries was like, who? And that was kind of funny. And then Jeffries did not criticize Mike Lawler after that. I would be surprised if we have more of these hallway.
Probably not. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. I wanted to ask you, Arthur, somebody like you've been doing this for a while. You do your job and you do it well. When you hear that Donald Trump invites people like Nick Sortor and Katie Daviscourt and the Jack Posobiec's of the world, I mean, there are actually serious people out there that consider them to be journalists. Now, I don't think they are. I think they're just right-wing agitators. Does that bother somebody like you? Because it bothers me, and I'm just a talk show host. I'm not a journalist, but it's like they invite these people to the White House yesterday to speak to Pam Bondi and Donald Trump about the threat of Antifa. And I'm like, what's next with this administration? I mean, a guy like a Nick Sortor, he's not, am I wrong to say this? He's not a journalist.
I am not actually that familiar with him. I realize he's the guy who was out in Portland, who was, I think, involved in that altercation with the burning flag. I appreciate you taking umbrage on the behalf of professional journalists, but it hasn't really bothered me, the influencers and right-wing personalities the White House has been bringing in, because it has seemed very obvious that these guys aren't doing what the professional reporters do. And the way they do it, it looks kind of corny. And it's sort of like with the fake fighting here at the Capitol, like, well, this isn't the real thing. And I think everybody knows that, including the Trump administration, because they have to give them like a special shout out and preface their opportunity to speak as like, now we will hear from one of our special new media people. Like, okay. And the questions that they ask are very obviously intended to flatter the administration, and nobody thinks that's what reporters are supposed to do.
Of course, I completely agree with you. Are there politicians there on Capitol Hill, because you're there almost every day, that just refuse to talk to you or accuse you of being the liberal media, the Huffington Post, or whatever? There are people that say all sorts of different things. Are there some politicians that refuse to talk to you? Have you had any interactions like that?
Most Republicans will criticize the media to our faces, and to me they'll say, "Oh yeah, well, HuffPost, so you're going to write liberal trash," and that's really not a big deal. They're doing this at the same time that they're being genial and talking to me and answering my questions, very often providing information. There are some members who just don't talk, like Cindy Hyde-Smith, a Republican senator, Tom Cotton. Usually doesn't talk. Sometimes he does, though. There aren't a whole lot of them that will react with just total hostility. Even Derek Van Orden, who after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, said, well, this is all your fault. I mean, the next day he's being completely friendly. So it's just a weird social/professional situation that I don't think anyone who does this job would complain about.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Arthur, if you had the opportunity right now to ask Donald Trump one question, what do you think it would be?
I guess I would ask, are you going to do the Insurrection Act? Are you going to have troops arrest people? Something that is not normal in the United States outside of a crisis. And I just think that's the big presidential powers question that we're confronting right this minute.
Yeah.
And I respect you asking me that, because I often want myself to have a question ready, because sometimes you'll turn the corner and some important person will be there and you feel like an idiot if you don't have a question.
Yeah. I think that would be a really good question to ask. I have actually, believe it or not, never been to Washington, D.C., and I'm going to be out there next week to do Tim Pool's podcast, believe it or not, who once received a credential, a media credential in the White House press briefing room. I'll definitely ask him about that.
He had his hat on. He was Tim Pool. And it's not like you were
Right.
replacing us with Tim Pool. You should come to the Capitol. I do think it's the best building. It's a lot more interesting than the White House briefing room. And I'll come say hi if you visit.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I'm going to be there next week, and I'll definitely hit you up. Arthur, I really do appreciate what you guys do at Huffington Post. You're a great journalist and reporter. Please keep up the great work and keep pressing them with those good questions, my friend. And look forward to talking to you again soon. I appreciate your time, my friend. We'll let you get back to work. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thank you very much. That's Arthur Delaney, everybody. Really good reporter with the Huffington Post. Can you imagine what that must be like to be doing what he does for a living right now? With what's going on.
And he said you could turn the corner at any moment and have a senator or a representative standing right in your face. And I agree with him. You got to be ready with good questions, because that's what they're expecting.